You're watching the Self-Determination channel. Hi, I'm Stacy, one of the hosts of this channel. Today on In the Spotlight, we are talking to Denise Jess about accessible voting machines. Welcome to In the Spotlight, Denise. Please tell our viewers about yourself.
Thanks, Stacy, so much for inviting me to spend a little time with you today. I am the executive director of the Wisconsin Council of the Blind and Visually Impaired. And I also am a person who lives with vision loss. So I'm the mom of two adult daughters and have been happily married to my wife for, 32 years. So I'm really excited to talk with you about the accessible voting equipment because I'm both an advocate for that equipment usage and I'm also a user of that equipment.
Accessible voting machines are one way people can cast their ballot. Tell us about these machines and where we can find them.
All polling places are required to have accessible voting equipment or electronic voting equipment available for any voter, both people with disabilities and other voters who would like to use that equipment. So every polling place should have at least one piece of voting equipment. And before the polls open, each election, that equipment should be set up and ready to go and also have been tested so that when any of us come to use it, it's ready for us. And we also hope that poll workers are trained on how to use it. So if somebody's a first-time user of it, they can get really good instruction. And what makes the voting equipment really important is for any of us who cannot see the ballot or cannot read it or cannot physically mark it, the voting equipment lets us do that, make our choices both privately and independently. There'll be a screen and that will have large print on it. So someone can enlarge that print and be able to read from the screen. There's also headphones and an audio component. So someone like me who can't read screens very easily is able to listen to my ballot choices. And then I'm able to use a button on a controller to make my ballot choices. This equipment, a lot of it also has puff technology. So someone who is not able to have access to the controller can use that technology to also mark their ballot. All of this information will be available in the links below and is available on the Wisconsin Elections Commission website.
Why would anyone want to use an accessible machine?
For those of us with disabilities, it is, I would say, liberating to be able to mark my ballot completely on my own. I don't need any assistance. No one has to read the ballot for me. No one has to mark it according to my wishes. I get to be completely in control of my ballot and make those choices. The other thing that I think the equipment is really wonderful is avoiding mistakes. So when you mark a paper ballot, you have a pen, a special pen, and you have to fill in little bubbles or connect lines. And that can be a really stressful task, whether or not you have a disability. And people get fearful that they've marked the wrong choice, and then they have to spoil their ballot or, get a new ballot and start again.
Let's hear from a couple of self-advocates on why they use an accessible voting machine.
My name is Christopher Wood. I'm a voter with a physical disability, and I'm also a wheelchair user. And the reason why I use the accessible voting machines is because I feel it gives me more autonomy over the voting process rather than having somebody over my shoulder looking at my ballot.
Hello, my name is Danita, and I am a African American female, and I'm totally blind. I really appreciate using the accessible voting machines because it allows me to have the privacy to be able to pick my own selections. I like the fact that it has an audio description of each choice. All I do is use the tactile arrows to pick my selections, and I can keep my choices private. And it encourages independence. So I feel like that's one more thing I can do on my own without assistance. So basically, you go in there, you sit down, you select the choice, you click on it, and you print it. And I really like that.
It's clear that these machines are important for people with disabilities. But can anyone use them?
I'm really glad you asked that question. Anyone who wishes to may use this equipment. And we really hope that people do. Even if you don't need the equipment, please use it for a couple of different reasons. One is you can learn about how it works and be able to be a great advocate for the machine usage in our communities. If there's times when a polling place runs out of ballots, which happens sometimes if more people came to vote than was anticipated, using the machine allows everyone to keep voting. They don't have to stop the voting process while they're waiting for more ballots to come. And I think the big reason to use the equipment is to help communities and voting officials know that it's valuable. Sometimes a whole day might go by in an election day and nobody uses that equipment. And then poll workers and elected officials, local officials wonder, why do we have to have it? So as more people use it, it'll become more understood about the value. And then when those of us with disabilities go to use it, I think our poll workers will be better educated to really assist in the process.
What if your voting site does not have a machine or it's not working properly?
If you are not able to use the machine for any reason at all, we want you to ask to speak to the chief elections inspector. And that person is like the supervisor for the polling place. And ask them to get the machine fixed so that you can be able to cast your vote. If for whatever reason that's going to take too long and you don't have enough time to wait, then by state law, you also can ask for assistance in marking your ballot. So if you have a caregiver with you or a friend or your spouse or even a poll worker, you can ask them to read you the ballot if you need that, mark the ballot according to your wishes if you need that, so that you can still cast your ballot. The other thing we'd love you to do if you run into a problem with the accessible voting equipment is to call the Disability Rights Voting Hotline, 844-347-8683 or 844-DIS-VOTE, DISVOTE. And let them know that you ran into an issue, because we need to be able to report these things as well. And they can help you file an accessibility complaint with the Wisconsin Elections Commission.
How can more people be more aware that using an accessible voting machine is an option?
Couple different things. One is to ask when you get to the polling place where the equipment is, where it's located. One of the things that you may find is that the people working in the polling place won't offer you the ballot that you need for the accessible voting equipment. And you will have to ask. I will often say to the person who's handing me my ballot, please give me the ballot for the express vote, which is the machine that I use here in Madison. And they will need to pick that ballot up from the pile and hand it to me. We wish that people working the elections would ask the voter, would you like to use a paper ballot or would you like to use the voting equipment? But we're not there yet. So we are still doing a lot of educating with poll workers about the accessible equipment. You can tell your friends and your family about this equipment and encourage them to use it as well. So if they're coming to the polling place with you, maybe you use it first and then they use it, so that our poll workers, again, see more and more people using it. One thing I'd like to be sure to add is if you are concerned or nervous about using the accessible equipment, you're worried that you might go to your polling place on elections day and it might not be set up. While you aren't required to call your clerk in advance to make sure that the equipment is ready, I think it's a good idea to do that. So if I was going to vote in November, I might call my clerk the week before and let that clerk know I want to vote in person. I want to use the accessible voting equipment. And I'd like to make sure that it is set up, ready to go, and that someone can assist me in using it, especially if I'm a first-time user.
Please tell the self-advocates watching why it is important for people with disabilities to vote.
Oh, another really important question. Thank you. So it's so important for those of us with disabilities to vote in every election that we possibly can, because we are valuable people in our communities. We have ideas and perspectives and experiences that are unique and important. And we have every right to help elect the people who make decisions about our daily lives. Those of us with disabilities are among the largest minority groups in the United States. Imagine if all of us who were eligible to vote came out in the same numbers as our non-disabled peers. There would be 1.75 million more voters helping to decide our elections.
Can you share some resources on accessible voting machines?
Some great resources can be found at the Wisconsin Elections Commission website, where there should be videos that demonstrate how the machines work. The link is currently being shown on your screen, and you can also access it below this video. And also, I'm excited to just make a quick note that we are working with the League of Women Voters to develop a campaign to help promote the accessible voting machine. So stay tuned for those resources soon to come.
We will include a list of resources in the description below this video. Thank you, Denise, for being our guest and for all the great information.
Stacy, I want to thank you for being such a great advocate for voting rights for those of us with disabilities. And thank you so much for this chance to talk with everybody today.
To all of you watching, be sure and vote and ask to use the accessible voting machine. If you found this video helpful, please give us a thumbs up. Please subscribe to our channel. If you click on the bell icon, you will be notified every time we post a video.